Hello everyone, I hope y'all are doing well and I've had a great weekend so far as it comes to a close. And so tonight we're going to be talking about the tropics once again. And so as of the latest 8 p.m. update, which came out about an hour ago, we still have Major Hurricane Erin, which is a 125 mile per hour storm and has a minimum central pressure of 946 millibars. So it has weakened over the past day, but it is going to, or it is forecasted to strengthen as we get further into the night, tonight into tomorrow on Monday. So that is the latest update on Erin. And so we also have, we'll talk about this in just one moment, but we also have this disturbance out here off the coast of the Carolinas, which now has a 0% chance of developing into anything within the next 48 hours and 7 days. So this is no longer an area we need to watch, but still they just have it up here because they're just showing that National Hurricane Center is showing that they believe it's going to continue to weaken and not have a chance to develop into any sort of tropical cyclone. But we also have this area down here into the central Atlantic and then kind of into the western Atlantic as well that has a 40% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 7 days. So this area popped up, I believe, on probably Friday or Saturday. And so they have gradually increased the chances of this developing into something within the past day or two. So, but it once again, it is a now at a 40% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone. So this is going to be our new area we'll have to watch over the coming weeks. And so we'll talk about this area in just a little bit after we talk about Erin and look at the models and see what they have to show. But let's go ahead and get started with tonight's update. So now taking a look at Zoom Earth here. And so this is a very useful website to track hurricanes and whatnot, but we have Major Hurricane Erin right here. And so as you can see, we can take a look at our winds right here. Let me click that again, but taking a look at some of our winds here. So we have some winds still kind of hanging around, or some wind I should say, excuse me, hanging around into Puerto Rico, but nothing like it was earlier. Same with the kind of northern Dominican Republic and Haiti. Not a whole lot going on there, maybe 10, 15 mile per hour winds. But the Turks and Caicos Islands are going to be the area that will see some of the higher winds within the next few hours, and even as we get further into the morning and even into tomorrow on Monday. So if we progress this here, and this is using the GFS weather model, so we could progress this forward here. And so I think the time that the Turks and Caicos Islands could see the highest winds would probably be about tomorrow morning. So probably by around 6, 7, 8 a.m. you could see winds reaching the upper 30 to lower 40 mile per hour range as we get into tomorrow morning. And then as you get further into the day tomorrow, those winds will hang around for quite some time, even into the evening hours. But really by about tomorrow night, most of those winds should start to die down a little bit. So keep in mind that this is constant winds. This is not wind gusts. So the wind gusts could be a little bit higher than what shows here, because once again, this is just showing our constant wind speed across these areas. So the Bahamas also could start to see some winds from this storm maybe by about Tuesday. But once again, it is going to start to curve out, so the impacts won't be as great as, let's say, the Turks and Caicos Islands, but still the Bahamas could see some outer rain bands, and that could definitely impact some of the areas into the Bahamas. So just maybe, I would say 10, 20, even maybe 30 mile per hour winds in some isolated areas, but nothing too crazy. Probably some wind gusts in isolated areas reaching 40, even maybe 50 miles per hour, give or take, into these areas. So that's the latest on that. And so that's as far out as this goes with the GFS weather model. So we're not going to continue to look at this right here. but that is the wind field showing up on the GFS. And so we'll take a look at some of the other models in a little bit, and we'll take a look and see what the winds may look like for the East Coast, and especially into Nova Scotia and even Newfoundland as well. So we'll get to that in just one moment. Starting off with the GFS weather model, and don't worry, I'll get to Nova Scotia and especially Newfoundland in just a moment. But here's the latest GFS weather model, and as you can see, the GFS and many of the other global models show this to be a weaker storm right now, but it is actually a little bit stronger than what it is showing currently. But by midday tomorrow, it shows it as a 954 millibar storm, and then as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, it shows it strengthening into a 937 millibar storm. So that would be kind of around a strong category 3, even maybe a category 4 hurricane by this point. And then it obviously makes that recurve out to sea. And so the areas I could see this storm getting the closest to would probably be the Outer Banks, I would say, on the East Coast, because there could be maybe some rain bands associated with Erin moving into the Eastern Carolinas, maybe. But I would mostly say the Outer Banks could see the greatest impacts out of the continental United States. So we'll talk about that more a little bit once we get to looking at the potential winds with this storm as it moves further up northward. But it does not get really anywhere near the Northeast or Nova Scotia as well. So now let's look at Newfoundland and see what it has to show for there. So let me get to the correct panel here. We don't have a better view than this. I do apologize for that, but as you can see, there's Newfoundland right there. The southeast portions of Newfoundland could see some impacts from Erin, and the wind field is going to actually increase as this storm moves further northward. So the wind field isn't just confined to the heaviest rain. It could most definitely expand further outward and reach areas into Newfoundland. But the good thing is this has trended away from Newfoundland a little bit, I believe. I think just a little bit there. It's kind of hard to tell because of the previous runs. They show it way up here a little bit quicker. But still, I think some of these models have trended away. But the European model kind of does get it a little closer. But the GFS shows it a little stronger as it gets further into those areas. But I do think portions of southern or really southeastern Newfoundland could see some rain bands from this, and also some wind from the storm as well. And once again, we'll get to the wind in just a little bit. But let's look at the European AI model as well. The European AI model looks like it shows Erin the furthest south from Newfoundland, so that's a good thing. We'll see how the trends look on that, and it looks like it's trended a little bit further south, and looks like it's a little slower on some of these most recent runs. So once again, we'll continue to watch that, and still it's a decent ways out before we get this storm to this kind of general location. We might not even see it near this area until this upcoming weekend. So we'll be talking about this for at least a few, if not several more days. Really several more days, but that is kind of what the models show for Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, those areas. And so that'll be pretty much it for some of the precipitation on our models for Erin, and then we'll talk about the winds with Erin as well, and then after that we'll talk about our disturbance into the central Atlantic. Finally, looking at some of the winds from Erin on the European weather model. And so if we back this up just a little bit, I think if we let's go to Wednesday night. So by Wednesday night, some areas of the Outer Banks could begin to see 20-30 mile per hour winds, especially the southernmost portions of the Outer Banks. And then as we get into Thursday morning, I believe portions of the Outer Banks could see 40 mile per hour winds and even 50 mile per hour wind gusts. This will probably last a good bit, probably about at least 12, maybe 18 hours of 20 to 30, almost 40 mile per hour winds. And gusts will continue as well, but I think the Outer Banks will be the area that see the highest winds from Erin in the continental U.S., but also just really along the eastern seaboard as well. Along the coast here, some of these areas could see 30 mile per hour winds, especially into Maryland, New Jersey, Connecticut, along those areas as well. Even into portions of New York, those areas could see maybe 20 mile per hour winds, possibly 30 sometimes. But I just think this will curve out quick enough where these areas don't see the greatest wind speeds, because the wind field once again is going to continue to increase. So even into Massachusetts as well, maybe by Friday morning potentially. This is not a definite forecast here, but the European wants to show some winds getting into there, even into Rhode Island as well. So the eastern parts of Massachusetts. So that's the latest we have on that. And then also looking at Nova Scotia as well. Maybe the southern parts of Nova Scotia could see 10, 15, 20 mile per hour winds. So nothing too crazy there. But if we look further to the east and kind of look at Newfoundland here, if we get kind of as we get into Friday night and Saturday morning, some of these southernmost areas of Newfoundland could see 20, 30 mile per hour winds. And I do believe that wind field is going to continue to increase as we get further into the weekend. But really by about Sunday, potentially, once again, this is not a definite forecast, but maybe by Sunday, this storm could finally start to move out to sea and kind of merge with the flow, if you will, across those areas. So that is the latest we have on the potential winds from Erin, but we'll continue to get more information on this and see if the impacts for some of these areas change over time. But that's the latest on that. All right, so now taking a look at our disturbance into the central Atlantic, and so we'll move on out here. There's Erin right there, and so we're looking on the GFS weather model here. This is the 18Z run, which came out this afternoon, and there'll be another run here in a few hours from now, but this is just the latest we have. So by Thursday, maybe Friday, the GFS wants to show an area of low pressure into the Lesser Antilles, and so it wants to move this westward, get into the Greater Antilles as well, and then get kind of around and over Cuba by this weekend into early next week. But if we go back here just a little bit and look at this moisture here, this is not really too far out. I mean, this is Thursday, Friday of this week. So I mean, even though this disturbance only has a 40% chance of developing, this is something that's kind of closer than we really think it is in time. So we get this forward here and go into Sunday and then into Monday as well. The latest GFS wants to show it getting going into a storm, eventually into tropical storm, and then into maybe a category 1 or 2 hurricane, and then tries to get it into Florida and then into the Carolinas. But once again, this is now 250 hours out, so it is way out there. So I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is just what the latest GFS shows. If we look at the runs prior to this one, it's been kind of consistent with showing a storm getting going somewhere into the western Atlantic, but we're still too far out to really get a good idea of where this may go or where it may even develop at. So that's just the latest on the GFS there. And we'll look at the European. So this is the 12Z European run, and the European run has actually, not the run, but the European weather model has been kind of stubborn with developing any sort of storm over the past several runs. So I'm seeing this run for the first time. So it wants to get a low pressure going near Puerto Rico, north of the Dominican Republic, and it finally gets a low pressure going, and it does not get anything too significant going. It only has a weak low pressure by really this coming weekend into early next week. And so it's continued to show this sort of scenario for a decent amount of time But once again, this is just the operational run and not the ensembles. So we'll look at the ensembles as well in just one moment. But here's the European AI model. Once again, there's Erin right there. Gets Erin on out. And then here comes our disturbance here by Friday. And then Saturday gets it way out here into the Atlantic. And actually gets it kind of near Bermuda. And does not develop it into anything significant either. And just merges with the upper level winds and goes on out to sea. So lastly, we'll probably look at the icon model here and see what it has to show. Once again, there's Erin right there. And then we look at the icon model, go to the 12Z run. It does the sort of a similar setup between the GFS and European models, kind of gets it in between what both of those models show, and get something going into the Bahamas by next weekend. So that's as far out as that goes. But as you can tell, multiple models do show something developing here, but we're not quite sure if this is going to be a potential tropical storm or even a potential hurricane. We're still just a little too far out to tell how this system or how this potential system may develop. So if we take a look finally at the ensembles here, and this will be the last thing we look at for the night. And so the ensembles here, we'll look at the ensemble members. And so the ensembles basically put together many different members all into one model for us to see. And so this gives us an average location or idea of where a system may develop. So as you can see right there, there is the signal for Hurricane Erin. So these models want to show quite a few locations for Erin to go. And this isn't all many different low pressures at one time. This is just showing us what the members show right now. And it gives us an idea of the kind of average area this might track. So if that makes sense at all. But looking at the latest ensembles here, and we see we have a signal for late this week into this weekend for a system. And as you can see, those little numbers right there are low pressures, and each of those low pressures are a different member. So this isn't all at the same time. We're not going to have several storms right here at the same time. This is just, once again, an area we need to watch, but not many different storms at one time, if that makes sense. But nonetheless, it does show this area getting a kind of a low wind signal into the Southwest Atlantic by early next week. And it has a few strong members, but there aren't a whole lot showing up. But that is the latest 12Z ensemble, EPS ensemble. Now, if we look at the GEFS ensemble, it is a kind of a completely different story. We have, let me go back here. We have the same kind of same frequency or same level of kind of a signal here into the north of the Lesser and Greater Antilles, but it doesn't show really anything out here near Bermuda. But it finally gets a few of these members going, and it wants to show a signal off the coast of Florida, Georgia, maybe the Carolinas as well. But by this point, we're getting pretty far out here. Not this Thursday, but next Thursday, August 28th. And so by this point, we're just getting too far out here, and we're just in La La Land. We can't really see or really predict what may happen at this point. But that is just the latest ensembles. And so if we can take something from this altogether, it's that we do have a signal for something to maybe drift into or north of the Lesser and Greater Antilles, maybe by this weekend or early next week. So once again, guys, that'll be all the information on that, and we'll continue to watch these areas and Erin as well, and see how the models continue to play those out. But that'll be it for today's update. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I hope y'all have a great start to y'all's week.